Okay guys, we're going to start now. Before beginning, I'm going to hand off the mic to Claudia that wants to say something about WeWork.
Hi everyone, nice to have you here. Welcome to WeWork. I don't know if all of you know WeWork already, but just 2 or 3 seconds about us. So we are a co-working space. We are a platform for creators, and therefore we have around 120,000 members worldwide in 156 cities. And we have like a great referral program, so if you know anyone who wants to join our WeWork community, we are more than happy, and just reach out to us and I can give you all the informations. And now I wish you a fantastic evening with the great event, and I will give up the microphone.
Okay guys, so as everyone knows, the beers are free. Anyone who's attended our past meetups. Also, if you need to go to the bathroom, go through the bridge and keep going. You can see the bathrooms at the end. Saying that, I want to welcome everyone, and I want to ask one thing. Again, last time, who owns Lisk here? There's like more than 50% who do not. That's good. Yeah, not yet. What about Bitcoin? Who owns Bitcoin? No? 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 Okay. So yeah, today's meetup is going to be focused on financial aspects. We have 4 great speakers. We're going to try to advance this and rush this as fast as possible. For our first speaker, let me introduce Max Kordek. He's a co-founder of Lisk.
Thanks, Joe. Okay, welcome everyone. First of all, today is a very special meetup. Why? Because we have, I think, 2 ambassadors here, and I think 3, 4, 5 delegates, I don't know. So really special, big crowd, and many important people from the Lisk economy, so awesome. So, we changed a little bit in the meetup, so now I'm going to give you a quick recap about what is Lisk and what we did and what we will do in the next month. In order to market ourselves a bit. So, now it works. Okay, so what's Lisk? Lisk is a JavaScript or Node.js based cryptocurrency. We are based on our own blockchain, own code, and we have our own token. So we are not a fork, we are not based on another blockchain or anything. And our main goal is to become a blockchain application platform. What does it mean? It means that we want to enable developers to build their own blockchains in order to build their own decentralized applications. Because we feel decentralization is very important, so it has to be brought, or it has to be transported to the world. And it's a really hard topic, and we want to make it more easy to develop stuff like that. And how do we gonna do it? So we are developing an SDK in order to build your own sidechain. A sidechain is something like a fully independent blockchain, but it's running to the side of our own Lisk blockchain. And here's a small visual here, and it works like this. So we have our Lisk blockchain, and now you want to develop a decentralized application on Lisk. So you will have to come up with your own blockchain or sidechain, which runs on the side. So whenever someone wants to use your application, he is operating within its own sidechain. It is not affected by the other sidechains or by the Lisk network. So if our blockchain might be full at one point, the blockchain applications, they still work fantastically. And it's a really complicated topic, and I just want to give a really rough overview of what it is. I think you're all familiar with that, or at least half of you, those who own this. Just go to Lisk.io and you can find all the information. Okay, I think there's a small here. So quickly, what was done in the last month, but because this is the first meetup we're doing like this, shortly statistics, what it currently looks like in general in the Lisk universe. So we have about 1,000 nodes. It's very hard to estimate the total size of the network. We're about 1 year old. That in that time, about 250,000 transactions were sent throughout the whole network. In all this time, we released about 60 core releases with a fantastic team with the Lisk shirts here in this room. And we have currently a market cap of around $200 million, so amazing. Yeah, 4,000 subscribers on Reddit, 6,000 newsletter subscribers, and rapidly growing. We have once a month a Lisk community meeting where we are live streaming parts of the team members and answering questions from the community. So if you want to participate in one of them, you're welcome. We're going to change the model slightly in the future, so it becomes a little bit better, even better. We also were this year at Consensus in New York and at Token Summit in New York, which were like gigantic success for us. Not only represented in the market cap, but also in the number of users which are now active on our social media platforms. It's really visible. I also want to quickly tell you what we released in the last month. For that I prepared a small cheat sheet. So briefly, Lisk Nano is our light client. It's the client our users use like as the main entrance to their Lisk account. And in the last month, we released 2 versions for that. The first major version ever, Lisk Nano 1.0, and then a patch release later, Lisk Nano 1.0.1. And it basically represents all the functionality the Lisk network can support or can do, like registering a delegate, sending a transaction, and so on. And we also released a Lisk Core minor version, 0.9.0 and 0.1 and 0.2, so 3 in total. So rapidly developing quite a few Lisk Core and Lisk Nano client versions in the past month alone, and I'm sure that in the coming months there will be many, many more. Then, what's upcoming? So Lisky is something no one of you should ever know because it's a new product. And it's basically a command line interface for the Lisk Core client. What does it mean? It means that you can now operate the Lisk Core client with all its functionalities from the terminal. This is very useful for power users. It's very useful for people who want to build scripts and automate some stuff with the Lisk Core client. So it's really powerful. It's new, so that's why no one ever heard of this before. And it's expected this month. So it's not released yet. This is basically the first announcement ever. So you can feel very proud of that. Also, Lisk Core 1.0, the first major version for our core client, for our core product. It will include several technical improvements. For example, we're cleaning up all the depreciated DEX functionalities in order to make room for the future. We have a fully redesigned API, which is now following the RESTful standards, or at least principles. And basically it also includes a major refactoring of all mission-critical parts, like the most important ones. And it's going to be like a real milestone, a huge difference between the current Lisk and the Lisk 1.0. Also with the Lisk Nano release we did last month, we are now removing the old user interface from the core client, and it's being replaced by Lisk Nano, so that everyone who wants to use the user interface has just some kind of a light client and doesn't need to synchronize the whole blockchain and so on. It makes Lisk Core basically much leaner. And it's like a preparation update for the SDK, which will come out later this year as an alpha version. Here are our social media channels, and that's it already from my side. So really just a quick overview of what is Lisk, what we did, and what will be done. I wish you a lot of fun with the rest of the evening. And I would suggest to stay the whole evening and even after that, because there are so many important people here today, so make sure that you shut up with them. Thank you.
Okay, so that was Max quick introduction to Lisk. For now, we're gonna introduce another brand new, not brand new, he's I think, what, 2 months? 2 months? He's 2 months with us, he's been working with us. He's our marketing lead of Lisk, Thomas.
Thank you guys for coming all. It's amazing to see all your faces. Again, some familiar faces and a lot of new faces. I think we reached a new record, Joel, new record today. Special thanks to the delegate, of course, and ambassadors today. Amazing that you're here. Yeah, so a quick introduction, as Joel already said, I'm quite new. I started approximately 2 months ago, marketing lead for Lisk. And I started out as a marketing consultant right after I studied business, general business. And then made the switch to blockchain after I came in contact with Max. And I think that was the best decision I made the last, period. Super cool to be part of Lisk and a lot of nice stuff to happen. So, as I said, I have a business and marketing background, so it's going to be less technical today from my side. We're going to talk money, and who doesn't want to talk money? Oh fuck, it's like everything. Okay, so agenda today. First, we're going to talk venture capitalist funding versus ICO funding. We are in a sort of funding frenzy right now. It's super interesting to see from a business point of view. After that, we're going to talk more about valuations. All the funding is nice, but how are those people valuing the cryptocurrencies? How I perceive it. And then we're going to talk a bit more about token utility. Especially for Lisk. Actually, these topics are important to cover for me as marketing lead and also for Lisk because we're going to create a blockchain application platform. I think we're going to facilitate more ICOs than Ethereum is doing right now and will do. So it's important for us to dive a bit more into funding, what are the funding characteristics, how does it work, how do we relate to traditional funding. And I think we have to really focus on the token utility. Right now it's all about financial, trading, making a nice return on investments. But I think it's really good to look into token utility, and Max already mentioned we went to the Token Summit in New York. Together with Max I went there, and they also said we should focus on the business models behind it and not only the tokens itself. So yeah, let's start out with venture capitalist funding versus ICO funding. So a bit more general, how does funding normally work? You probably already know, but a quick recap. Funding, angel seed funding, early stage, late stage, and technology growth. Normal venture capitalist firms are investing in small startup. Actually, after they showed a bit of traction already, they spend a bit of seed money, and they hope they're gonna become really big, and they can, with an exit strategy, could be an IPO, an initial public offering, generate a lot of profit. The amount of value that is raised or funded is mainly seen in the late stage, because then the risk is lower, makes it more easy for them to cover up their losses for the majority of their projects. But you see that actually the angel seed funding phase has the most rounds of funding, which is actually the phase of the ICOs. So that's the phase we're going to cover. So then I was like, yeah, okay, let's look into the public interest of initial coin offerings. I mean, it is a crowdfunding, it's based on the public. We all together put in a bit of money, which ends up in a shit ton of money. And you can definitely see it's Google Trends, the source, that the interest exploded around me. Well, you all know it, looking at the price of the currencies. And then I was like, okay, let's compare. These are CB Insight data from Token Market and Smith & Crown. They do all kinds of research. And then I was like, okay, let's compare in blockchain industry, the venture capitalist investments versus the ICO, so the token sales. And then you see in the beginning, the first, where's my laser? So the first Q1 of 16, 6 million. You might recognize that number. Exactly, that's Lisk. We started out. We were actually the first one that started the whole ICO hype kind of in the form how we know it today. And you see the percentages shifting towards the end of the year, beginning of 17, that the percentage of ICO funding rapidly increases. And then I was like, another good example, if you aggregate the data and if you compare it actually to the early stage phase, so not general investment, but also only looking at the early stage, you see that the percentage of ICO funding is even bigger than in the first chart. So we're heading towards really interesting times. Another slide, like Smith and Crum, I already mentioned them, they report a lot of financial results. And then you see that they also indicated early stage venture capitalists versus token sale. And then you see also a rapid increase in token sale. And this covers also Q2 of 17. And in Q2 of 17, June is also included, but this graph, not yet. But there were 36 companies raising money, approximately 600 million that's been raised in June. And if you see the graph here, it goes to 150 million. So I need 4 of those slides to cover that blue bar, indicating how many funds are raised during an ICO. It's incredible. And again, Q1 you see Lisk, and there sort of it starts. And you're like, okay, it's all nice, 600 million. And then it was like, let's compare that 600 million, which is a month only June, with traditional or like global funding. And then I was like, okay, we'll have to look into funding based for internet-based companies, because we're not competing with investment for medicines, for instance, healthcare. And then you see that approximately for 1 quarter, 5 billion is raised, approximately global. And if you then do some calculations on the back of the paper, then you come out with approximately 30% goes to angel and seed funding, again, what we're covering with an ICO, which breaks down to 550 million per month seed angel investments, normal venture capitalists, which means that it's 50 million less than what we have seen last month, 600 million. So we officially at a turning point of globally ICO funding is more than venture capitalist funding in 2017. And I want to have a small applause for that, because we're all in the same industry. It's all nice, those valuations, but we also know that not every project will survive, like, let's be honest. And then, well, I mean, like I started out 2 months ago, and I already was looking into blockchain and of course Bitcoin, etc. But then people always ask me outside the blockchain space, like, what is valuation? Like, why is this token worth so much? And you just copy a fork it and then they just start over. And how is it even possible that Bitcoin exploded so much? Or in our case, Lisk exploded so much. Now I will take you back a bit first to the history of the evolution of value transfer. So first we have cows. Actual value, you swap 1 cow for 1 cow, there's exchange rate, is 1-to-1. Then we got gold. Gold is sort of a representation of value, but also actual value, you can make jewelry with it. Then we have cash. So then like a central institution said, okay, we're not going to do it anymore, it doesn't work, we were growing too fast, the economy. Let's make a representation of value with a coin and notes. It's all nice, and then it said, okay, this also doesn't work so well anymore. Next step is card. It's still the same euro, it's still the same representation, but now in the form of a card. Already more digital, but still the same euro. And now we're in a phase where you see explode of digital currencies. And basically what I already said is that the first, the cow and the gold, are actual values, and the second stage is representations of value. So it goes more to the right, more representations, and more digitally. And second variable I could find is this one. Cash and card are centralized, publicly issued. And the digital currency is privately issued. Now that was really interesting, because I went on vacation to Argentina, and I was walking in the street and I saw those huge queues. Like they went around the corner. I was like, what's happening here? And then I realized after asking around, there's a huge inflation rate in Argentina happening. You can see that the black line is the trend line. Why is this? Because the government in Argentina, the central government, the central point of trust, thought it was good, leading an example of the states of printing more and more pesos to pump in the economy. It had the opposite effect. And why do I show you this? I show this because it's important that we create trust. Trust in this industry and trust in Lisk. And what's happening here is that people don't trust the pesos anymore. Like next day, the pesos is like less worth. In June was 27% decrease of their peso value. So we really have to create trust. And trust is also created by stable valuation. So let's go back to valuation right now. Comparing crypto assets to traditional stocks. Who owns an iPhone? Uses an iPhone? A bunch of people. Who of those people have an iPhone and also have Apple stocks? 1, 2, out of 10 plus. Exactly. This is the point I want to make. There's no kind of relationship between the ownership of a stock and the usage of the product, which we see in our industry. So people are going to be like, okay, Apple is worth almost 800 billion. That's nice. Oh, we are with the whole market under 100. Where are we now? 70 or something? We have a long way to go. We can go 10 times. We didn't even overtake Apple. But for me, it doesn't make so much sense because Apple is one company and their stocks are not comparable to crypto assets simply. The second thing people base their valuation, like speculate on. Okay, well, so it's not comparable to like equity stock. It's a currency. Bitcoin, digital gold, it's a currency. Okay, fair enough. But if you want to compare this total circulation of euros, which is in notes and coins 1.1 trillion now in circulation, and you see it increasing over time. This, by the way, this graph also shows overnight deposits. The total circulation of notes and coins is 1.1 trillion. And if you want to compare it to Bitcoin, reach the same level of circulation, Bitcoin should be $66,000. And of course, I also calculated for Lisk, which is 10,000. Super nice, it's going to happen. But it's more than a currency. That's why I want to talk about the utility of the token. A currency transferring value, a digital currency like we saw in the past, it's one of the aspects of a token. It's much more than that. So what is a token? So, of course, everybody knows like cryptocurrency and a token, but I really feel that we have to define a token as a fusion between usage and like a financial aspect. And comparing traditional business models like Apple with Lisk or any other cryptocurrency is irrelevant. It's a completely new model, and I think valuations cannot be linked to anything we have seen in the past. People link it to the internet bubble of 3 trillion when it popped. Also, in my opinion, doesn't make sense. You see some similarities, fear of missing out is happening. It's based on future value, but again, it is future value for a complete different product. Token Sum was organized by William Fogarai, if I pronounce properly, I don't know. He's sort of like the father of the tokens. And he said, okay, I define a token as a unit of value that an organization creates to self-govern its business model and empowers its users to interact with its products while facilitating the distribution and sharing of rewards and benefits to all of its stakeholders. It's quite a big quote, but simply it breaks down to, okay, unit of value. Our token, LSK, self-govern its business model using our consensus algorithm, delegated proof of stake, and empowers its users to interact with its products. Later on, we're going to see products, applications we developed on Lisk. People can interact with the token with those applications. And facilitates distribution using an ICO and the sharing of rewards and benefits. Delegates get forcing rewards for securing network. It's done in the exact same token as we see with the empowerment of the users using the applications. Which is in the case of Apple completely missing this link. So, token utility. So I dove a bit deeper into token utility and I was like, okay, well, what is it? It's like transferring value, okay, fair enough. You can transfer value with Lisk. It's one of the things you can do with it, but it's not how it's designed. It's designed for another purpose. It's designed to be a mother token of our platform. And facilitate ICOs and facilitate the production of decentralized applications. And the same William, he made a model with 3 things: role, purpose, and features. And I loved it. I was like, okay, this is it. This is what we're going to educate people. So role, you have to, with a token you have a right. What are you doing with the right? You're bootstrapping engagement. We're going to bootstrap engagement. Features of a right, token right, is the following. You can vote, you can access a product. For instance, you can prove that you are the owner of a certain song, an application based on built on Lisk. So you can access a product. Value exchange, economy creation. An artist can start creating songs and sell those products via this platform. You're creating an economy. Toll, purpose is skin in the game. You see with other cryptocurrencies as well. If you want to send a transaction, you have to pay a little bit as transaction fee. for a users fee or run a smart contract. Fourth, function, enriching user experience. In order to get people to use your products, one thing a token can facilitate is paying people for incentivizing them to use it. So if somebody downloads an app, he gets a bit of tokens as an exchange for using it. Also connecting with users. If users connect with each other, they can be rewarded with tokens as well. Currency. Here it is. So currency is one of the roles a token can fulfill. It's not the only one. So frictionless transactions, well yeah, it speaks for itself. Payment, transaction unit, and earnings. Distributing benefits, profit sharing. So security network, some delegates here. Security network, in return you get forging rewards, transaction rewards, and block rewards. And this all happens with a much lower inflation than we see in some big countries, where there's a centralized point of failure and a centralized point of printing money. We also have inflation, but it starts at 15%, goes to 1.73%, if I'm right, in 15 years. So it's nothing to compare to the June inflation of 27% in Argentina. And this is really important because we have to emphasize the use of all the tokens in order to push people to create decentralized applications based on Lisk. And what could happen is somebody enters an identity app. For registering, he gets a bunch of tokens. He goes to our Lisk decentralized exchange and exchanges those tokens for music tokens, another application. And then he goes from one role to the other role and exchanges it for product access. So he changes from function to right. And this is how I see like the whole Lisk ecosystem evolving later on. I think it's really nice to see that a lot of different purpose tokens can work together. We're going to create an enormous Lisk ecosystem where everything works together and is interoperable. So I'm really excited. Thank you.
Okay, we have time for 3-4 questions. Any questions?
Is there an option of addressing volatility in the cryptocurrency in general and in Lisk? Are there derivatives planned to apply basically?
Yeah, so how you address volatility. So to increase trust, you mean?
If I use token for transaction, value transfer, I want to have stability in the currency. The derivatives, how to create the stability.
Yeah, so if you want to like artificially stabilize, that's exactly what we're doing here in Europe. We're artificially buying and selling euros by a centralized point, and then they create like a sort of stable artificial price. Now the price is given or made by all of us. It's a public price. It's what people want to give for it and sell for it. The problem is that it's now the majority is based on future value. So what you see is that people buy the token, so they say, okay, so if I buy now something, and with a 50% discount, and later on I see a product, and I can buy the product for much less. That's nice, but if the product is never going to be delivered, the whole thing fails, right? So when we actually, that's why I emphasize so much on the utility. If people know there's a utility, they can actually swap the tokens for a certain product. Then you have a natural way of fading out that volatility. I don't see an artificial way of doing that. Maybe somebody else, but I don't think it's possible. No, that's exactly what we don't want to do.
I read today on Telegraph that a DJ released his album on Ethereum. You guys do that? If someone wants to release like audio content, for example, on
Yeah, so the thing is, in order to do that, we first need to, we're on too early stage. We need to facilitate that platform, that application. The ecosystem should evolve in a way that we can offer that, and then we can market it, and we can say, okay, people actually can do it as well, and we can do it better on Lisk and on Ethereum. But that we also probably will develop some application internally to set the standard and to show, okay, what can be done with our software development kit in the end of the year. But yeah, the ecosystem is just not ready for it, but it's definitely something. I already addressed the music part, something we will look into.
Your last question? No? You good? Okay, thanks. Okay, so let me introduce our next speaker. Let me welcome Benjamin Jones, from the CTO and co-founder of Bitwala.
Everyone? Okay, yeah, so I am the CTO and co-founder of Bitwala. We are a blockchain-based startup in Kreuzberg. We've been around for about 2 years now. Is anyone a customer? Oh, tough crowd. I'll convince some of you. And sorry, backwards. And I'm really good at presentations. Okay. – 2017 people. Yeah, and Bitwala is trying to make assets as liquid as possible between crypto and fiat. On the other side, I'm a JavaScript developer. I've been working with JavaScript for a long time. I love it. And that's partly why I'm so excited for this. So you guys know Stripe, the payment processing unicorn. They weren't the first to do what they were doing, but on their website, the first thing that you saw was code. It showed you a code snippet of how you could use the platform. And that's why they grew so quickly. And I think that's why Lisk is going to be successful, because it focuses on making the job of the developers as easy as possible. Okay, yeah, sorry, this is really boring, but these are my personal views, not those of the company. We're going to be talking about legal stuff, so I'm not a lawyer, and yeah, this is a thought experiment, so it's not suggestions to do anything dodgy. Okay, so the dream is to have the frictionless transfer of value between assets. So most of us believe by now that we're going to have tokens for pretty much anything. We're going to have tokens for avocado futures, for oil, for gold, for companies, cryptocurrencies. And I think the world would be a much better place if you could move value between these instantly and at a very low cost. So why? It's going to open up the markets. It's going to allow capital to flow to people who deserve it. If you want to invest in a startup in Africa right now, it's pretty difficult, for example. It will also reduce volatility and shocks in the market. If money can flow where people want it to, then people won't overreact to shocks, and I think the whole market is going to be a lot more stable. So we decided to take a very small part of this problem, and 5 years ago we founded all for BTC, and this allowed you to buy anything with Bitcoin. So Bitcoin was great, but you couldn't really spend it anywhere. You could just kind of have it. And so we set up a very, very simple app, which is that you put in a link from Amazon and then pay for your purchase with Bitcoin. And that's been running for 5 years now, and it's still going, so you can use it if you want to. And we realized that was just part of the problem. And so then we moved on to Bitwala, and Bitwala lets you send money all around the world with Bitcoin. So if you want to cash out Bitcoin to your bank account, or to pay your rent in any number of countries, you can do that. So you just enter the bank details, and then we give you the sum in Bitcoin. You can pay in other cryptocurrencies, and that allows people to move the value flexibly from crypto assets to fiat assets around the world. But as soon as you log into Bitwala and you start moving money from Bitcoin to fiat, you'll realize there's problems. So KYC, know your customer, and AML, anti-money laundering, things that you as a financial startup have to follow. You can't just start transferring large amounts of value for your customers without knowing who they are. And so if you don't give us any information, we can only allow you to transfer 200 euros a month. If you give us your passport and proof of address, it's 2,000. And if you do a web ident, then it's 50,000. And a web ident is basically having a Skype conversation with an agent working for a third-person company. We need to show your passport, show the holograms, move your fingers in front of your face. You will have had to do it. Yeah, that's the best we have right now. Yeah, like a Fido number 26 coupe. And that's what we are. And so right now, what we have is the government says, okay, in order to move money on people's behalf, you need to do X, Y, and Z. Companies like ID Now and Web ID, they build products, and then you get a little, like a sticker. It's actually an MP3 file of the conversation that you did, and then that allows the startup, be it a bank or the crypto exchange, to do things for you. And the best we've got right now is, like this little diagram is, it's going and having a Skype conversation. This is gonna change. One of the problems that we have is you need to do it for every single service you access. So these three are all Berlin startups. So Bitwala, number 26, and Coupe, the e-scooter sharing platform. And if you wanted to sign up for these three in a day, you would probably spend about an hour and a half waiting in the queue, and then doing the same thing with your passport again and again. And so it's very inconvenient. Additionally, there's security risks. So either the company doing the web identifications or the startup itself needs to hold on to your data, so the video and also your passport details. So someone in the future could maybe hack this to recreate your face, to get your voice out of it, as well as all of your passport details. And we've seen that with a number of Bitcoin exchanges like Mt. Gox. Everyone who uploaded their passport, that was eventually hacked. And that's not good. So I think one of the first things that we can do is, rather than creating a separate proof of identity for every single service, is to create, I'm going to just call it a master proof of identity. So I know we all hate the Berger app, but imagine you had to go there once a year, and then you did a little interview, and then they gave you like a digital token, and then you could use that to sign up for bank accounts. So you wouldn't have to go through this ordeal every single time. You wouldn't have to risk your data being stored on multiple servers. You could just do it once, and then that would be a valid token that you could use on multiple platforms. So what we have now is passports and Ausweis and so that kind of thing. So that would be a wonderful start. And another problem that we have is you're sharing too much data. So we're all familiar with these kind of interfaces, logging with Facebook, logging with Google, and they ask you for a long list of things, and you're kind of like, do you really need to know all these things about me just because I want to, swipe on some girls? And the truth is, like most of the case, they don't. And I think in the future, it's going to be the case that you have much more control over which aspects of your identity that you share with various services. And it won't be actually sharing the data itself, but we can go a step further and we can share a verification of that data. So for example, when you go to Flash in Berlin, you need to share so many things. You need to share your Arbeitsvertrag, your work contract, your payslips, your bank, your Schufa, your credit score. And really, the landlord doesn't need to know all of these things. They just need to tick some boxes and say, okay, this guy isn't a criminal, he hasn't gone bankrupt multiple times. And so wouldn't it be much better, rather than all of these documents having to be given to a strange third party, than to just have a trusted third party? It could be a government organization, it could be a third party sanctioned by the government, which just said to your future landlord, this guy is okay. They don't need to know the details, they just need to have a tick box saying that this guy is okay and he can rent a flat. So some countries are already trying to make it as easy as possible. I got this from Cointelegraph, it's a little bit weird. I don't know why Estonia is associated with blue lions, but apparently they are. Estonia is by far the most progressive country in the world when it comes to e-identity. You can register as an e-resident of Estonia for, I think, 100 euros. And this gives you the right to create a company there. And if you actually live in Estonia, then you can vote. You can name your child. And yeah, do all kinds of things from your living room just by logging in and authenticating yourself with your ID. And the ID comes in the form of a card and a PIN. So those two things are what you need. Who's heard of Liberland? Okay, great. So Lieberland is much more colorful. It's a micronation. I had the honor of meeting the president, and the story goes, he Googled land that hasn't been claimed by any countries. And he found a little strip of land in between Serbia and Croatia, and he sailed there in a boat and put a flag in and then created his country. And Lieberland is going to be a libertarian paradise, so voluntary taxation, government on demand, absolutely as minimal as possible. And I imagine that this will be the kind of country that we want to set up our future projects in, be those companies or foundations. Right now we're using Zug, which is great, but Lieberland will be a country designed just for us. And these two have something in common. No one would really care about them unless they were doing something different. So Estonia was a post-Soviet country, Sweden had IKEA, Norway had oil, and Estonia was like, okay, what can we do? And it said, okay, we're going to do governance better than anyone else. We're going to make it really easy for you to come here and to start a company here. And Lieberland will do the same. And now, for all of the JavaScript developers in the audience, I have a special treat for you. It's ES7. Hooray! Can you read that? No? Ish? Okay, anyway, so this is the future of creating companies. So you're importing a library from the Lieberland module, and then you use your token to sign your company creation request, and then you send it to Lieberland, and then you use async await, and you get a promise back, and you basically create a company via API. So no more no more filling in large forms online, no more going to organizations. It'll be the case that you can just create companies programmatically, and these will be legal entities based in that jurisdiction. So if you have this wonderful digital identity that you could do anything with, you could vote, you could register your child, you could get married, you could start a company, one of the big questions is going to be security. I'm sure we all have at least one friend who has just one password for everything. And that's the kind of thing that would crash one of these projects, right? Like imagine if someone just started a company in your name. This would be the horror stories that would stop the whole thing going on. And so we would need some kind of security system. That could be retina scanning, that could be fingerprints, it could be some kind of biohacking. This is a picture of me getting an NFC chip injected into my hand, which isn't very useful other than to tell people you have an NFC chip in your hand. But we could maybe have something like this, that, that you hashed your DNA or like sign something with a hash of your DNA. I think that would be cool. Okay, the other option. So we've talked about the problems of government and the KYC and the AML stuff getting in our way of just doing what we want. What if we lived outside of government? Or what if we lived in a crypto paradise? So if anyone has used Shapeshift, you know that it's great because there's no user accounts, there's no logging in, and the reason for that is it's just crypto assets. And so if you stay just in the world of crypto, there's no friction with the real world, and so it's a much more convenient environment to live in. But if you're going to do that, at one point it's probably going to catch up with you. So to get married, to name your child, to create a company, to buy a house, you're always going to be interfacing with the government somehow, and I don't think it's going to be possible to just step neatly in and out of the real world when you want to do these life-changing events. I think for most of us it's not possible. Maybe there will be a micronation where you can do it, that sounds cool, but I think for most of us it's not really practical. Okay, so we have this great new identity service where you go to the Bürgeramt and then you get this token and you can do whatever you want. Have we solved our problem? Probably not, because I'm going to assume that this is just going to happen in Germany first of all. And so Merkel is happy, and then maybe the whole of the EU is happy, and you can buy equity tokens in any EU country, but eventually you're going to want to buy equity tokens in an African company or a Chinese company, and they're going to have different standards, and then you're just going to have these kind of bubbles of identity standards, and going between them is going to create more friction, and we haven't really solved that problem. And as you guys know, with international relations and geopolitics, like it's really difficult to get everyone to agree on anything. the most cohesive system we have in the world right now is the passport system with embassies, but that's not perfect, and that's very offline, and it'll take a long time to change. And so I think we're a long way off from this. So I think some of the hacks you will see and have already been seeing. Options opposed to equity. So you need to get a KYC and interface with the government if you want to hold equity in a company, but it's much easier to hold options in the company. So the right to buy something at a specific price opposed to actually owning something. We will see utility tokens versus equity tokens. So all kinds of projects are really taking very elaborate steps to make sure that the tokens are issuing utility tokens, so tokens that you can actually use for something, like powering a network, opposed to actually owning a stake in that company. Hacking together legal systems with smart contracts. I think this will happen, but smart contracts are actually pretty stupid. They can really just press a data and give a result, and at one point it needs to be connected with some kind of legal service. So maybe you can have a third-party legal service where you say, okay, sign this contract, and then the issuer is trusted with the government, and therefore it can go in a smart contract, and people see that, and then they will continue to process it. And yeah, finally, I think we all know we're in an ICO bubble, and more regulation is coming. All it takes is one massive fuck up, and lots of people to lose their money, and I think the government is going to come down hard on us. There will always be ways around it. But I think things are definitely going to change in the market. Yeah, so we started to make this as simple as possible for people to transfer money from Bitcoin to fiat, and now we're going a step further. So we're opening the world's first Bitcoin bank account. So you will have a fully licensed European insured German bank account, denominated in euros, and then right next to it you will have a Bitcoin wallet. And that allows us to trade between those values extremely quickly and extremely efficiently. So bank transfer is really the only form of payment that is non-reversible. Even direct debit, someone can come back in the next month and say, hey, give me that money back, you'll know credit cards are extremely reversible. And also it's going to make exchanging between much more convenient, because you won't have to send your money first to an exchange, and then trade it back, and then trade it back to your bank account, because it will already be in your bank account. You can send your wage straight there, and then convert 50% of that into Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever you want. And in the future, we hope to enable all kinds of other asset pairs. So, like I said, avocado tokens, definitely first on the list. Gold, stocks, all of that kind of thing. Here comes the pitches. Yeah, we are hiring, so if you like JavaScript, then please come work for us. I signed up as a delegate today, so if you'd like to talk, vote for me. Shameless, I know. And also we've created a code, Lisk Berlin. So if you want to try out Bitwala, then you can make a bank transfer for free for the next month at market rates, and yeah, try it out. It's healthy. Questions?
How did you fund Bitwala?
So we're very boring, and we went the traditional VC rate. Yeah, it's HTGF, which is the biggest VC in Germany, and then Digital Currency Group, which is the most active blockchain fund.
Are you only doing B2C up to 50,000 something, or are you also doing B2B?
Oh, and yeah, we just launched our B2B service. And the bank accounts will also be B2B. And so, yeah, that's one of the reasons we wanted to do this, is because it's really hard to get a bank account as a blockchain company. In fact, if you try making a bank transfer with BTC or Bitcoin as a reference, then it will be rejected. So the banks are still very against Bitcoin, and yeah, you don't hear about it so much, but you have big startups having their banking completely pulled from them overnight, just because someone in the board gets scared. And so we want to be that reliable pillar of banking for the blockchain economy.
Hey, you mentioned briefly about how easier the world would be if you could identify yourself easily online. Last time I did my Personalausweis, I have like biometric one, so the government has my fingerprint and everything. I'm just wondering if you know at all if it's easy to integrate into that with blockchain, or what's the point of having a biometric ID, and will I be able to use it with blockchain technology to identify myself?
I mean, I think that's a great step forward. I think it'd be, yeah, there's lots of people who are trying to do it. So there's Civic, there's Showcard, who else? I saw on the blog today there's 22 different blockchain companies trying to do it. So right now we have a wave of third parties who are all competing to be the solution for identity. And if one wins, and probably one will win because it's a network economy, so you're going to go for the one that's most widely accepted, just like money and cryptocurrency. That would be great. But I think it's going to be a long time, and it needs to receive government validation. Like, for example, if I want to fly to Iraq and use my digital identity to validate my visa or whatever, well, they're probably not going to accept it, or accept something different than what someone in China accepts. And so I think it's just a case about reach.
More questions?
How scared are you guys in the company with what's going on in Bitcoin at the moment, with the potential soft fork, hard fork, etc.?
I mean, like, it's not nice, but our customers have wallets and they own their private keys, and I think that's the most important thing, to make sure that you're safe with the upcoming possible turbulence. And I mean, for us, like, people sell our Bitcoin through us, and so actually turbulence in the market is sometimes a good thing because it boosts our numbers. And I mean, ultimately, like, we are here to make transfer of value as easy as possible. And so if Bitcoin completely crashed, that'd be a shame, and then we would move on to Ethereum or Lisk or the next currency.
Okay, one last question.
Do you have some automated B2B solutions? Some examples for
Some automated
business solutions?
Yeah, so first and foremost, it's the bank account. Just by virtue of having a bank account for Bitcoin startups, it's something that currently doesn't really exist in the market. Things that we also want to build is payroll, debit cards for employees, and accounting solutions.
All automated?
I mean, like, semi-automated.
Or smart contracts?
Right now, we're thinking about it, but really what we're trying to do is build the boring stuff, because that's what the market needs right now.
All right, man, thank you. So our last speaker for the night is going to be, let me welcome Nicolás Berger from Untitled. Nicolás, there you go.
Thanks. So, I'm founder and an engineer in Winding Tree. This talk is going to be more technical, maybe. Well, let's get back to. So I'm going to talk about stateful property-based testing of smart contracts. Let me introduce Winding Tree briefly. We are a decentralized marketplace for travel. We are launching our ICO in mid-September, and it's going to work as a reverse Dutch auction crowd sale. So the thing that I want to talk about is how we are different techniques that we use to test and verify the correct behavior of the smart contract. Which in this case is the Leaf token and Leaf crowd sale. The Winding Tree token is going to be called Leaf. So we have a mixture of different techniques. We use unit testing, which is commonly testing by example, and also like functional tests. But we are not happy with just that. We feel like there's some limitations, like, for example, in a traditional, like, if you have a function that will sum two numbers, you could find these two tests that are making an assertion of well, an example of doing the sum of 2 and 3 and 1 and 4, which is going to return 5. That's pretty obvious. So an implementation of this function sum could be something like this. See? We could just return 5. We are doing TD. It's all perfect. But it's going to break at some point. Like, okay, maybe this is very simple. We can catch the bug here. But there are more complicated cases, and in a smart contract for that governs crowd sale, where there are pre-sale payments, there are well, we have a reverse Dutch auction with an initial price that's going to be decreasing by passing of time or blocks, and we have to receive bids that people is sending to contribute to the project. We have the minimum cap, max cap. We have to. We can have a lot of edge cases around that. So, so for example, we could have some tests verifying the sequence of what happens when there's a couple bids, there's a pre-sale payment of a certain amount, then there's some blocks that go by, then another bid arrives with a different price, and we verify different, all the resulting state at the end, but we want to verify different combinations of that, and it can get pretty lengthy, and we definitely can cover many combinations, and only the combinations that the developer comes up with at the moment of writing the test. So we are also so we are using property-based testing. The idea of property-based testing is, instead of writing some examples, which is an example input, apply your function and verify the result. Property-based testing is based on having generators, generating random input data. Then you have properties. We'll see what's the property later, briefly, but the idea is that all your properties should hold true on all the input data. And in case when if the property fails on some data, the property-based testing library will run a shrinking process on the input data. Imagine that, I don't know, there's a sequence of 20 bits and some pre-sale payments and some waiting in the middle that the test finds some property that doesn't hold. It's pretty difficult to understand what's the relationship between all those bits. Why is that bug failing? It would be much nicer if the tool could find a minimal sequence of maybe 2 bits, 1 waiting, 1 pre-sale payment, and with this you have a failure. So that's what shrinking does. It tries to minimize the input to find the smallest that still fails. So let me see. Let's get back to smart contracts. Smart contracts have, that they are basically they are composed of code and state. The code can modify the state on every transaction that runs on the blockchain. And for example, in a crowd sale, we might have the stage that the crowd sale is, which might be stopped, might be running, or might be finished once it's done. We have to keep track of all the bids that were received, all the pre-sale payments. So that's all the state in the smart contract. You can say that it's stateful. So stateful property-based testing is more or less what I've been saying, which is to generate. So the generators, in this case, they don't just generate, I don't know, a number, but a sequence of transactions that are going to be applied on the smart contract. And in the end, we are going to compare the actual state, which is the state in the smart contract taken from the blockchain, and we are also like applying the transactions in memory, and we compare both states, and they should be equal. Basically, that's basically the property, and we can also have different assertions in the middle. And then, well, when it fails, it will find the shortest sequence that still fails. And for example, we found like we are doing this with the winding tree contracts, and the test suite like found a bug which is when there's a submit bit in the end. Basically, there was an edge case. But it was not crazy to find, but it was pretty good that the tool found it by itself. So it gives us even more confidence that our contracts are correct, and well, we have an obligation to our token holders to do that. So we are pretty happy with that. So here's some examples of how to find properties and how they look like. So properties could be mathematical properties, like commutative property. In the sum, it could be, well, A plus B should be equal to B plus A. It's very common to do round tripping or inverse, or yeah, when you have serialization and deserialization, for example, converting from to JSON. That's a property very easy to write, that you can verify with any input data. Idempotence, you are, I don't know, deleting users, something that you can apply repeatedly, and the state should be the same. And function equality is when you have, it's also called commutative diagram. Is when you already have an implementation of an algorithm or a process, and you have a new version, I don't know, optimized or whatever. You can compare the results of both. It's also called test oracle. So what tools do we use to do all of this? We basically use Stateful framework, which is a development framework for Ethereum. We use test RPC. So we run the transactions on top of it, and we use JS Verify which is I think is the best JavaScript property-based testing library for JavaScript. And yeah, here are some links if you're interested on keep getting more information about this. The first one is a great talk, testing the hard stuff and staying sane, by Sean Hughes, which is one of the creators of QuickCheck, the canonical library for property-based testing, which was in Haskell and then in Erlang. JS Verify, then it's our pull request, adding the property-based testings in winding tree code. So if you want to see complete examples of this on smart contracts, you can take a look. You can even try to run them. And well, a very good post with an introduction to property-based testing. And I think that's it. Thank you. Any questions?
I know this is a smart contract security, but I'm not sure if everyone here has heard the news. A couple of days ago, there was 7 million stolen from, I think it was a website hack, Coindash. And for instance, you're a security expert. I was wondering what kind of precautions can be taken so that this doesn't happen again.
Yeah, like this is one more thing you can do, but yeah, you have to do everything. Like the widget, like you have to cover every possible link. That hack would not have been covered by something like this, definitely. Yeah, I think there's not a single tool that can protect you. Yeah.
Do you have any questions? No? Yeah, that one.
I was waiting there with a question because it's not directly related to Winding Tree, but since you seem to be very into the program, I'm going to ask it anyway. So at the moment we have Turing Complete, Ethereum with looping, and Satoshi Nakamoto obviously intentionally did not want that for Bitcoin, probably due to spam or something. And with Ethereum you have gas to avoid spam attacks and the looping. Do you see anything on the horizon for blockchain yet that does not rely on something like gas to prevent such a spam attack for a Turing Complete language?
I really don't know. Like, no, probably I'm not that expert to.
Okay. I was giving it a shot anyway.
Sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, are there any more questions? Very good.
Thanks for the presentation. Just a quick question about the reverse Dutch auction. Can you give an example as to how that would work out, please?
Yeah, so the idea is that there's an initial price, and the price will be decreasing. That's why it's reversed by passing of time. And the idea is that the contributors will contribute at the price that they think is right, or that they think. Of course, well, the thing is, if too many people think, most of the contributors think the price, like there's more value in the token, well, the price will end up being higher. If not, well, most will contribute at lower prices, and the proposal will finish with a lower price. But yeah, when it finishes, like all the tokens will be sold at the same price, which is the finishing price.
And a question about the ICO. How much funding do you think you need to make Winding Tree a success?
We are thinking like I'm not the expert person on that, the financials of Winding Tree, but I think like a plan for 5 years is we're talking about $40 million.
Not a question, but I wanted to answer to the first question. So there's Tezos doing voting specification to kind of verify that the code is correct and that there are no bugs. So maybe that's something the community can adopt to prevent these bugs to happen. But of course, that's kind of big time effort to do, but yeah, so maybe we'll see if it will come to reality.
Nice, thank you.
Okay, I think we have enough. Got it. All right, thank you. So I think that's it for the talkers. I want to thank Lisk, Bitwala, of course, Winding Tree, of course. Thanks for doing the speeches here. Also, WeWork for this, thanks. And for the last thing, I want to mention that our most team is here. We have both of the co-founders are here. Max is over there. Oliver is back over there. Me, Thomas, the one who spoke, and also the developers. Will is not here. Couldn't make it. Tobias is here at this.